Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Today, I want to explore some of the trends that we're seeing emerging and how they're increasingly going to be geared towards delivering improved user experiences and the innovation at speed that's going to be required to bring those experiences to life. And all that will require unlocking of data, harnessing digital capabilities. And to discuss this topic, I have an incredibly cool guest and a set of topics that we're going to explore together today, because Emely Patra from MuleSoft is joining me in a conversation about the rise of the business technologist and automation. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to the UK, where you can join me and Emely in conversation right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes. Hi, Neil, and hello, everyone listening in. My name is Emely Patra, and I am the head of Europe, Middle East, and Africa customer success strategy and architecture team at MuleSoft. I've been with Salesforce for about 6.5 years now, and I've been with MuleSoft 3 years out of those. And it's been a very interesting journey.
Fantastic. And before we learn more about your success, though, I want to learn more about what my guests are doing and what they're doing today. So can I ask you share your origin story, where your passion for tech came from, and ultimately tell the listeners a little bit more about the moment that put you on this path that you're on right now?
Yeah, I think I was always a techie right from school. Always interested in the gadgets and the new stuff coming out. Then I got introduced to computers, like when I was in school. It was not a common thing to have. And I just found it fascinating. I found it fascinating to see my dad work on his business problems. And I thought, I could help him out. And then I started learning a little bit of programming on my own, discovered I had a natural flair for it because I was quite a logical thinker. Yeah. So I went ahead and I took computer science as my majors during bachelor's. And that's where I got my degree, got into software engineering as my first job. And then there's been no turning back. I've enjoyed it so much. But through the journey, what I realized was it wasn't really the tech that was so interesting. It was seeing what's on the other side of what tech is solving that really got me interested. And hence I moved into the more business-oriented application side of things, which is ERP, CRM, and hence Salesforce.
And does that curiosity follow you around when you go out and about? Because I know for myself, because I used to work in the event industry many years ago, and I often found that I could be sat in a concert venue or a sporting stadium, and there'd be free Wi-Fi, and I'd find myself looking for the wireless arrays and how it was all working, where things were set up. Are you like that as well?
Always. In fact, just yesterday, colleagues sent like a little video snippet in preparation for a meeting. And that video was very well done with her voiceover, but almost like an avatar of herself, an animated avatar. And the first thing I did was not interested in the content. I pinged her and said, how did you do that? So teach me. So yes, always curious.
Oh, brilliant. And we've had Paul Craran and Jerome Buckner on the podcast before, but for listeners that are just hearing about MuleSoft for the first time, can you tell me a little bit more about what you guys do and the kind of problems that you solve at MuleSoft?
Yeah, absolutely. So at MuleSoft, we are all about connectivity. So what we really do at MuleSoft is help our customers create a seamless experience for their customers, partners, and employees by connecting disparate systems in manageable, secured, and standardized ways. Now, what that means in more layman terms is connecting all the different applications and different sources of data or applications that an enterprise might have to make sure that there is one way or a standardized way of working on processes or getting a view of the data that the enterprise might need. And this is all enabled via APIs.
And over the last 2 years, technology has continued to transform the workplace at breakneck speed. And one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was to talk about the rise of the business technologist and hyper automation. So can you tell me a bit more about some of the things that you're seeing around these themes?
Yes, so business technologists is the most recent trend that we're seeing as well. And there's a little bit of a background to that in the sense that traditionally IT has been delivering all the projects and all the needs related to digital transformation or new projects that businesses always have needed. But with the explosion of digitization of the world, especially which has been accelerated by this whole pandemic situation, the businesses feel the need to grow faster, change faster, adapt to needs faster, and have faster go-to-market strategies. So this has led the business in putting more demands over already burdened IT teams, so as to say, and it's created massive bottlenecks with IT delivery of projects. So now businesses are looking for easy ways to actually do these transformations themselves, introduce changes faster, be more self-reliant in a way that they can still be secured and they can still maybe adhere to the standards of their organizations, but still go to market with their changes without having to wait 6 to 1 year for an IT team to deliver something. So this has given rise to this business technologists that we talk about, where people are looking for more AI-driven, maybe development tools or more citizen integrator kind of tools, where it's easier, low-code platforms for them to really develop the changes and deliver the innovation that they want to.
Is that business technologist a little bit like, does it have the similar skill set to a relationship manager who can speak the language of the stakeholders and businesses and non-techies, as well as the IT teams as well? Is it almost like a bridge kind of role?
Yes, this is a very hybrid role. So these are people who, like you and me, are curious about technology, are not afraid to go on, log into a platform, learn new stuff, but also they're not exactly coders. They're not developers, but they understand enough about technology and they have a very solid domain knowledge of their business and they can tie that up. They can logically convert a business problem into a technology solution and maybe even develop that if the tool is easy or conducive enough for them to do that.
And something else I'm interested in exploring today is about how the future of work is increasingly looking like it's going to be built on a connected hybrid experiences, and how IT leaders and what they can do to prepare for this future right now, because it almost feels like that's where we're going. We know where we're heading, but what can we do now to prepare for this future? Is that something you can expand on?
Absolutely. I do not think we will go back to a 5-day office working culture at all. In fact, this is the normal now, and it's not even the new normal, I would say. Like Salesforce said, we're a success from anywhere company. We've embraced this whole hybrid culture of working. And most companies are realizing that this is the way that employees want to go. This is the way that they are going to progress with business. But this also means that the employees' expectations are rising in terms of the experience they get of logging into work or executing their work by not being in office. But from an organization's perspective, the key concern there is security. And hence, or security, ease of use, collaboration platforms. So again, there's an explosion of lots of new tech coming into the organization, lots of new applications and platforms coming in. And again, the problem is, how do you bring it all together? How do you create that seamless experience for the employee? How do you still govern what's going on outside the office and keep your organization secure? And the more digital we go, the more explosion there is in different systems, the more vulnerable we become. So this whole hybrid work culture is, I think, amazing. It solves a lot of our traditional programs, it's problems that we've had. It's accelerated what we were trying to do maybe 5 years ago at an unprecedented rate, but it's also brought in a whole new set of IT issues to manage. And that's why the use of APIs, the use of security by default has become more important. Like security used to be an afterthought after we did a project and say, okay, we've built an application, now we need to secure it. It's the reverse now. We think of security first before we even think of developing an application, because we know it's going to be maybe accessed from anywhere over public Wi-Fi. Employees are going to still want the same speed and the same experience that they had in office, connected to a LAN, maybe cable. So how do you deliver all of that by not compromising on the security of the organization as top of mind? So again, APIs and integration of these disparate systems becomes top of mind for every single CIO out there.
So many great points there. And before you came on the podcast today, I looked you up and was doing a little bit of research, and I came across something about your belief that the composable business will mature throughout 2022. Can you tell me a little bit more about that belief as well?
Absolutely. Composable business is no longer a good to have or a nice to have, I think, in 2022.
Yeah.
Again, it's the same theme with the growth of all of these applications and the hybrid working environment, and essentially the need for speed and agility by the business and the business technologists. The businesses are looking at ways to be more agile. And one of the key ways to be more agile is to make your business composable. And by composability, what I mean is compose different processes or change processes or create an innovation out of existing building blocks in your business. And those building blocks could be APIs, could be business processes that they have package applications, and maybe exposing them via APIs. And by doing this and making these composable building blocks securely available to these business technologists, we are empowering them to create their own innovations, to create their own changes, and hence compose maybe new experiences for their customers by using what's already there instead of going back to the drawing board and building things from the scratch. So composability is definitely the future. However, composability is not a new concept. We have been talking about modularization since the days of service-oriented architecture, which was 25 years ago. But I don't think we've been so close to even calling those building blocks and business people using those building blocks or those modular codes. But now with APIs and unified platforms, and with the whole API-led approach that we talk about, where we separate the concepts of process and experience and systems, it's become a real possibility for business users to actually consume what their IT teams have produced for them in a secure way and actually do their own innovation and create their own experiences. So I definitely think composability is what's going to take over this year.
I completely agree with you, but I never thought I would ever see business people thinking, I feel the need for speed. Who'd have thought that? I'm so glad that they are, but I never thought it would happen. But for those reasons alone and the need for speed to build these hybrid experiences, is that another factor in why you think the business technology, it will be the year of the business technologists?
Absolutely. Like we said, it's not about doing it right the first time.
Yeah.
We all have embraced the concept of let's go to market, test our strategies and see if it works. And also, if you look at the world, especially in the last 2 years, it's changed at such a speed that people are finding it even difficult to find or realize the right opportunities that there are for the businesses to go to the market. So I guess speed is so important because it's all about timing. Who got there first? Who captured the new market or the new opportunity first? Who gave their consumers the first digital shopping experience when the pandemic hit, when people couldn't go into stores? Who had their apps and website and online shopping experiences ready to go and cope with those kind of volumes? Got the business. And then the consumers just got used to those retailers. I personally switched from where I shopped based on my online shopping experience. And that's how rapidly consumer behaviors change. But also the consumers are now beginning to expect seamless journeys. I expect that my experience will just transfer omni-channel. By omni-channel, if I've started shopping on my mobile and I switch to my tablet, I just expect my basket and my experience to switch over. And all of this need for digitization is no more a luxury to have. I expect retailers to provide me with that sort of experience when I'm a consumer. And all this is possible with the whole API integration, API-led and composable business piece that we are talking about. So no one has the time to build from scratch experiences. We need to use what we have. We need to get the value from our existing assets by reusing those assets, but creating just-in-time experiences for our users, which are relevant at that point in time.
And you're so right in what you're saying there about customer expectation and how they expect these seamless experiences as go from device to device in the same way as they would something like Netflix. But to do that also needs a lot of security. And I'm reading a great book at the moment called "And This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends." It really opened my eyes up to the world of cybersecurity and the risks in all these different devices. But I'm curious, do you think that security by default will become a must-have this year too?
Oh, yes. With the whole composable enterprise piece, the hybrid working piece, the rise of the business technologist, the more the business innovates on its own, the more vulnerable it's becoming. The more they put out there, the more data they expose via APIs, the more chances there are that there will be a security breach. And we all have observed enough over the last year, some of the major giants have gone down due to security breaches. And we know how important that security is to our business and our data today. Security by default is definitely the way to go. And in fact, where there are configurable layers of security, applying the highest level of security by default to any new innovation or any new composed application should be the default behavior. If someone wants to strip down security from that layer, we should be able to tell them or warn them why. We should be able to make them aware of that they're exposing themselves to by taking down the level of security. So again, applications that provide inbuilt security, that apply security to an application that the business technologist is maybe developing by composing these different composable blocks that they have, then the business technologist doesn't have to think about that explicitly, because they know that to a certain level, as long as they've built something within the framework or the governed platform that they've been provided, they're secured and they're safe, and the standard protocols has been applied to what they've created. And that is, again, not an option in today's world. Everything that goes digital has to be secure.
And something else, I think, as every company and organization races ahead at great speed, we're going to see more hybrid complexity, and that's going to need to be managed as things quickly evolve and avoid gathering a huge amount of technical debt along the way. So how can businesses prepare for this and to manage that complexity as they're going?
There was a research in which enterprises these days have upwards of 900 applications in which they have their data stored. And out of all of that, we know that cloud, there's obviously some legacy, then there's cloud. And now we're talking about hybrid or containerization or Kubernetes, so all of this exists in the same landscape. And now companies want to drive either automation or seamless experiences across these different landscapes. It's no longer about creating an on-premise system to an on-premise system or a cloud to an on-premise. It's about creating an integrated network of all of these together to provide maybe that one seamless customer journey, which might be touching hundreds of these applications at the same time just to complete a shopping cart. And that is the level of complexity that every enterprise is looking at right now. Again, to achieve this level of complexity, we have to look at all of these as how do we create these as building blocks? How do we make it as flexible and agile to compose and consume when we are thinking about those journeys? It's not easy to change an on-premise system at the speed in which maybe you'll configure a cloud, but you don't need to, because probably the change needs to be more at a user experience level or more on a process level. And that is the beauty of composability, that once we've created those reusable building business blocks, then a business technology takes them and creates those new processes without literally having to go through that whole IT build project experience. So definitely this whole hybrid environment, multi-cloud environment increases the complexity of it. And hence it becomes even more important to address this complexity by breaking it down into easily consumable building blocks.
Wow, I feel we covered so much in a short amount of time now, and so much food for thought and big takeaways. It'll be interesting in how the listeners and what they've got to share on this topic today. But we did begin the podcast talking about your origin story. But as we come full circle, I'm now going to ask if you have got a song, piece of music, movie or book that has inspired you or helped you in your career, and leave the listeners with a bit of an inspirational note. What would your choice be?
Probably I'll refer to a book I read when I was in my late teens, and it still stuck to me. And I think I still follow it religiously. Is a very famous book, and you've heard of it, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
And I love the story and the simplicity of the story, where these little mice, they have their cheese and they're happy feeding on it. But then the cheese finishes and they go and look for more. And some stick around in the hope the cheese will reappear, and some just were more adventurous and they go. And I think I'm a little bit like the other mice who go in search of the new cheese. So for me, it's change is inevitable. And I think it's almost a motto I live with, that I expect change, I anticipate change, and I prepare for change. And there's never a point where I say, okay, this is it, it's never changing again, or I'm not going to, change with what I work, or I'm not going to change the way I do stuff, because I know I have to. And that's the only thing that will happen predictably. I don't know what it'll be, but I definitely know it'll be different. And it was such an inspiring book, and it stuck to me at such an early age that I think my whole career has been driven with just that one thing, which is expect change and just move on,
What a great answer and brilliant story there. And that's one of the reasons I asked that question. I love how you, as a young child there, read that book and how it stuck with you and shaped your worldview and your ethos and anticipating change. And at the time, you probably didn't see it that way, but the way that it has shaped and formed you, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for everyone listening that would like to find out more information about MuleSoft, what's the best way of finding you guys online, contacting your team, etc.? What's the best starting point?
So we have MuleSoft.com is a great starting point to go and read through some of our maybe white papers or see what products we have. And of course, if someone wants to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Emely Patra, very easy. It's Emely and not ILY. So just to be clear, but yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and share the trends that we're expecting to see emerge and how they're increasingly going to be geared towards delivering improved user experiences and innovation at speed. And also, of course, for unlocking data and harnessing digital capabilities and how they're going to be the cornerstone of future transformation initiatives. So many huge takeaways there. But you know what? More than anything, I'm going to remember the story about Where's the Cheese and that book and how it inspired you. I absolutely love it. But thank you so much for sharing it with me today.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So the future is going to be built on connected hybrid experiences. And here in 2022, hybrid working is continuing to cement itself as the new normal. I hate that phrase, but it is. And creating these frictionless hybrid experiences is increasingly being seen as the key to maximising productivity, while also retaining the best talent, especially as employees increasingly expect their work lives to be connected to their personal ones. And to make all that a reality, companies will need to move beyond one-off investments in new collaboration platforms to initiatives that actually create those fully connected workplace experiences. And to support that, IT leaders will need to look for new ways to empower their teams across an organisation and give them access to the apps and data they need to do their jobs wherever they're working from. So for that, we need a different way to support greater collaboration between IT and business teams and enable them to access, unlock and integrate data and apps in a secure and governed way. And for that reason alone, maybe it really is the year of the business technologist. But I'd love to hear your experiences and how you and your business are approaching these challenges, because although today's conversation took place in the UK, I know we've got a huge listenership in the US, Asia and beyond. So I'd love to hear different stories from all around the world. And you can share that with me in a number of ways. You can send me a DM on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. You can email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. And you can even come on this podcast, sit down with me for 30 minutes and we'll talk about the things that you've seen out there and how you've managed to overcome some of these challenges. Whatever is easiest for you. I'd like to try and make life as simple and easy as possible for everyone. So keep those messages coming in. Other than that, I'll return again tomorrow. We'll explore a completely different topic of how technology is transforming our life, work, and even world. So a big thank you as always for tuning in. Hopefully you'll join me again tomorrow. But until next time. don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.